Hello, how is everyone doing tonight? Good.
At least we don't have.
Well, my name's Jeff McLaren, I'm first selected for Tom Andover. I actually have a pulse. I was elected with 512 votes, so a lot of you had to vote for me, and that's about 7% of my electorate. So just so you all know, my wife and I do pay our taxes, unlike some people that like to throw stones. Okay? So, all right. So, before we get started, I just want to do the same thing I did last time. We will not, we will dissent. It has to be a good discourse, not a poor discourse. It's all about working together. When we work together, good things happen. Like the bathroom project that's going to happen here at the school is going to save $260,000, not $260,000, $200,000 because we worked together. And it wasn't easy to get it done, but we did work together. All right? So things good can happen if we work together. So, before I read this thing, everybody needs to know there's things we're doing. First thing we're going to do is elect a moderator. The second thing we're going to do is the Board of Finance is going to start running the meeting and do a presentation. The third thing we're going to do is ask questions to any of the boards. You can ask questions whatever you want, and then what's going to happen is we're going to adjourn. There will be no motions that we'll be able to undertake, no reductions of anything that's been done by the Board of Finance. What the Board of Finance has put forth is going to go to referendum on the 26th. All right? So as long as we all understand the game plan. All right? So my requirement is to read the notice and to get us started. Notice of bifurcated budget meeting Tuesday, May 12th, 2026, 7 p.m. The electors and citizens qualified to vote in town meetings of the town of Andover are hereby notified that a bifurcated budget meeting of the town of Andover will be held at the Andover Elementary School in the Gymnasium, 35 School Road, Andover, Connecticut, on Tuesday, May 12th at 7 p.m. for the following purposes: to choose a moderator for said meeting, for review and discussion only, no action upon the bifurcated budgets of the town and the Andover Elementary School for the fiscal year July 1st, 2026 to June 30th, 2027, as prepared by the Board of Finance, and voting will be deferred to the budget referendum at the Andover Town Community Room, May 26th. Also, we will adjourn. Copies of the proposed bifurcated budgets of the town are available in the town clerk's office. Voting by absentee ballot or any other means is not permitted for this meeting. So we're going to get started, and we're going to sit there and do item 1 to choose a moderator for said meeting.
I'd like to nominate over there. I'd like to second that.
So Liz Lokech did the nomination, and who? Louise Goodwin did the second. Does anybody have a further nomination for a moderator?
Well, it says it's okay.
Okay, so if there are no other nominations, we're going to let Linda take over the meeting.
Good evening, hello, welcome. We will just jump right in. But out of curiosity, how many of you did get to attend the Board of Finance meeting after the referendum failed? Is anybody on that? Yes. Yes. Just curious. So some of this won't be brand new, but a lot of it. Okay. So Jeff went over the guidelines. Also, we'll hand it over to Mr. England for letting us know how this is going. But also, when we come to the speaking part, we're going to have everybody come here and use the mic instead of running around with the mic. Okay? And as usual, you'll read an address. And also just that, there's a saying, we can't necessarily control the wind, but we can set our sails. So tonight is sort of part of I think setting sails, that we're asking questions, getting clarification, we're sharing opinions. We will keep it to 3 minutes, but please, add your 2 cents to the budget. So, it's
It's yours. I'm gonna turn off the light so you can see better.
Yeah, so you can actually see this. Hello, everybody. We're back here. I'm Rob Inman, I'm the Board of Finance Chair.
Oh,
Well, there are too many lights.
It's not those stories, it's a budget. It's a budget. Right, Susan? Apologies if I'm kneeling down here using my laptop, I'm not all that competent. So one thing I want to mention is I'm going to speed around some of this because we've done it already. For those of you not here though, this is just a basic budget process slide. We go over the various budget requests from the various town departments and the school boards. And then I'm going to run you through what we did on the 6th at the Board of Finance meeting following failure of the referendum, and my revised math on mill rates. People are usually interested in that. Bear in mind, those are all provisional, and some sample property tax calculations. So this is what's happened so far. I've added to it. The first bit of this is not news to any of you who've been following along. What happened, of course, is that referendum budgets failed. The townsfolk indicated in advisory questions they felt the budgets were too high. So now the budget bifurcates and splits. We vote on it separately from now on. So we took these issues up at our meeting on the 6th to review and discuss changes. And then we'll be taking this budget to referendum, as Jeff said, on the 26th. Some things that have changed since the first thing that came down, interestingly enough, was the state decided to allocate additional aid to cities and towns. Our share of this is listed here, and I hope you can read it, but basically it's $80,000 towards education and 17.751 in supplemental town aid. My understanding is since the ed budget is rising, we can use that to defray it. And there's been some back and forth on state guidance on that, but my belief is that the latest and greatest is that we're fine there. So the Board of Finance went through the town budget again. We made some relatively modest cuts on the town side. The town operations budget, $16,400. Little changes here, little changes there. $5,000 reduced for the town administrative assistant line. We thought that we'd be okay to get away with that. $5K reduced from treasurer and clerk wages. Again, discussing kind of with the treasurer about the open position and programs at the community center. I think Tess can make do with the number that we ultimately arrived at, and then there was a little bit of a very small cut to the recognition. Then we looked at the school budget, which somehow my bullet item here didn't make it. We reduced $50,000 from the school budget, basically tripled the cuts on the town side, and then we voted to use $100,000 from unassigned fund balance to defray taxation. Again, apologies for not having that bullet point on AAS. We did reduce it by $50,000. We also talked about another thing that has, action has not been taken on yet. So I only put this in here for informational purposes. The number is not in the calculations. The 24-25 audit is just about done. We should have some money coming back from the AAS budget, which we could use, but we have not voted on that. We're not going to be. As you know, both RAM budgets failed, they're capital and ops. They're meeting, as I understand it, as we speak, to address that. I can't tell you what's going to happen. I got a text indicating they may have made a $100,000 cut. And I'm not watching that meeting. I hope that's true. But those numbers are not in because I could possibly have known going into this meeting. So here's my little chart of our expenditures. Again, as I think I ran you guys through our last meeting, the RAM number, this is the true up number for our levy, right? Not counting, as many of you have probably heard, the returning money that they are giving us back because they got money for 5 years that they shouldn't have kept. That 258 is accounted for, but it's not in this expenditure line, which it doesn't belong in my opinion. Town budget, this is the adjustment. So you've seen it go up by 3.5. The Ed over BOE, this reflects the $50,000 cut. That still leaves it as plus 9.8. So this is, I went through this last time. I'm gonna, again, if people want me to go over this again, I will. Otherwise, I'm gonna kind of speed through my little history documents here and get you to changes. Again, as I just said, $50,000 cut brings us down to 9.8 on the school side. Okay, this is RAM. Nothing has changed on this slide. Hopefully, they've made a decent cut to it. We have a 12.65% share of whatever their budget is. That's the key thing to, I think, keep in mind. So those are, again, budget history documents. We can go over them if you want to. Mill rate taxation.
Robert,
Mm-hmm.
could you slow down? There are people, including
Apologies.
myself,
I
who
will.
have a hard hearing, and some of it is the acoustics, and some of it is just the rapidity.
Yeah,
Oh, I think saving money is signing.
just so you know, like the hard of hearing, myself and my father, we have a really hard time hearing because of the reverb.
Yeah.
In the gym, the echo does not go well with hearing aids, and I don't wear a hearing aid, so I am completely deaf in my left side.
So I
it's
just
just
think
really
just
difficult.
flowing.
Right.
And that's true.
Best impression.
That's true for everybody.
My coworker from Alabama.
Here. I'll take that.
Best I can.
Thank you.
So we can revisit any of the stuff that I already talked about that you might have missed. Back me up in a question. Happy to do that. Apologies for being remote enough. So, as you guys may remember, if you were here last time or following the process, their mill rate calculation is a little complicated if we go over a certain figure. The state of Connecticut, a couple of years back, capped how much you can charge on auto tests. We are, at this present moment, just slightly above that threshold, which results in a split mill rate. It's pretty minor, and I think by the time the RAM situation is sorted out, we'll be under this number again, but again, I made the presentation at 4 p.m. today. So this is my chart of the mill rate and how it's calculated. We know we need to raise by taxes just over $10.4 million. And that is applied to our grand list. And it results, down here, in a split mill rate. Again, like I said, the auto is capped at 32.46. You kind of have to calculate that, take it off the top, and then find the number for the remaining, the real estate and personal property, the rest of the grand list. And that's 32.5.
Robert, can you make it bigger? Can you make it?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to. I hope it doesn't cut everything off. Hang on a moment.
Yeah, that's easier.
Sure. Does that help? A little bit. I know there's a lot of numbers on there. I apologize. The answer is, for the number that most impacts everybody, is right now this budget would be 32.57 on mill rate. Again, the auto is slightly lower, but auto is minuscule in comparison, I think, to most people's house taxes, right? So this is just how I calculate. This is just literally the basic math. The auto is capped. We cannot raise more than this figure here, right? Because of the state law. So then that's how I arrived at 32.57. And again, I would simply express that that doesn't actually get set until after we pass a budget. And in between now and then, if RAM makes the cut that I hope they're making, if the state suddenly changes and pumps more money in, then we would, of course, address it accordingly. So this is an updated version of a slide I had last time to just give you a sense for, at this mill rate level, what real estate taxation would look like vis-a-vis last year. So depending on what your assessment is, and again, I ran through this last time real quick, your houses are assessed at whatever their supposed fair market value is at 70% of that figure. If your house was worth $500,000, you're assessed at $350,000, right? 70%. So if you are at that $350,000, if that's your assessment, the tax increase this budget would require, as currently written, is $343 a year. And there would be a few months on the other side. not a ton. Oh, and I did have this slide. So as you can see, depending on how nice your cars are, it's literally 15, 20, 25 bucks. It's nothing compared to this. This is where the need is. But anyway, in the interest in a full disclosure, that's how it works. So this is just my little history slide. Again, I've updated it. I also want to point out that the last time I did this slide, I had an error in it because I used an old formula. When I created the cumulative number for the last 5 years, not including this budget, I had originally had it in my head that I would do a rolling average, and I left that number in. It was wrong. The gentleman actually pointed out the very first question of that meeting, he was correct. I had a math error, my fault. Thanks to that guy, because he helped me correct it. The overall number was right, but the 5 year, 21 to 26 was wrong. So this is the update. So if this budget passes over the last 6 fiscal years, inclusive of this budget, the tax increase would be 10.6%. To be raised by taxation, that does not mean your individual taxes increase. During a valuations can fluctuate depending on what's going on with the property. I should also mention, I do believe next year is our reval year. So we haven't had a revaluation in town for 5 years now, I think. And normally it would have been this year, but I think it's next year now. The state, I think, backed it up 1 year on us. That will change everything. What's that dumb stuff? So that's my presentation. I know about as much about the state money as anybody does, which is to say it's been emails flying back and forth from various people trying to get clarity. I genuinely think I have my arms around it, but just be aware it was very last minute. The state does do that sometimes, unfortunately. So I will leave it there. I don't want to take up the whole time with this and get to questions and hopefully answers.
So we're gonna have folks come up, unless you can't, and then we'll bring it to you.
Give it a microphone, please.
Thank you. I would like to amend the rules for this meeting, stated by Jeff McGuire, the moderator, to include not only, during the public speaking, not only questions, but to add comments as well, so we're able to get comments rather than just questions.
I agree. We should say that.
I didn't do my. Oh. Okay.
So is everyone in agreement with that we include not only questions, but also thoughts and considerations?
Yeah.
3 minutes. Anyone?
Over there.
Can I come to you? You want to come up? Are you halfway through?
Bring it to her. Let's just bring it to her. Yeah.
Here's.
Name and address.
Oh, my name is Georgette Conrad. I live at 117 Lakeside Drive. You have me hold the mic. Okay.
There you go.
When I wrote my letter to the editor, I was contacted. When I wrote my letter to the editor, I was contacted by Valerie Bruno. And she sent me a message request, and it said, if you have found any superintendent of school contracts that is lower than mine, I would like to bring that to the attention of the Board of Education to be considered. Neither myself nor the board could find any. And I did some research, and what I found was, let me get to that screen. It says part-time school superintendent salaries for small towns under 4,000 population in Connecticut typically average between 40,000 and 125,000 according to Hearst Connection Media Analysis. While full-time large district, this is very small, so roles, exceed 200,000, these part-time, often multi-town or smaller districts, lower compensation with some part that contracts in Litchfield County pay from 36,000 to 95,000. The average is 65,500, and we have part-time superintendent who I'm told gets full-time benefits. If that's right, and I feel if the Board of Education gave her that raise, they should find the difference in their own budget instead of making the town taxpayers pay for that raise. I'm sure she's worth it, but not in a small town like Andover. Thank you.
Can I respond? Sure.
When you put that into AI, it doesn't give you superintendent of schools salaries by district. We have gone through the districts, and 65,000 is not the salary. So again, I do encourage you to find a specific contract for a district and bring it to the Board of Education, because we did go through them, and that is why both the Board of Finance had a conversation and the Board of Education in going through them, and it is still the lowest salary in the state. So I absolutely would love to see them if we missed one. And I believe in that message, I said, if you do find a specific contract, please bring it to the Board of Education. And again, there wasn't a town contract there for us to consider, but please, I know Litchfield is not a contract that is lower than mine, but I would encourage if you found another one to bring it to the board, because that just isn't the case. 65,000 is not accurate.
Also, if anyone is interested, I'm Kate Greenhouse, for those of you who don't know, I am the head of the Board of Ed. If anyone is interested, if you personally want me to email you a graph that compares the salaries for superintendents according to point 2, so that everything is equated, right, for a full-time versus a part-time for our town and similar towns, so like the towns that are in our DRG where we're listed, as well as the towns that are surrounding us. I'm more than happy to email that to people individually.
What is the word?
Yeah, so sorry, that compares like the district area for towns that are similar to our town. So if you guys want that information, I'm more than happy to email it to you. It's a graph that shows all of them.
Kaylee, could you share with us the actual contracts that you already, that we want to help with, on just a graph?
The contracts are all posted on the AES website. There's a contracts tab.
The contracts that you use to compare for the superintendent, not.
I'm not gonna email you like contracts from 20 towns. Is that what you're asking for? You guys can also find them.
Okay, so we can do the work, instead we can just share it and working together.
Yes, and share the summary of that information, which is far more valuable.
Okay. Anybody?
I believe a member of your board did do that as well.
No,
Sorry. Can I just ask a question rather than get up to speed? And the question is just really brief. Will that include the number of students in each of the superintendent's districts?
No.
Are you able to, just ask, are you able to offer a comparison that would look at not just the superintendent's salary, but superintendent's salaries in districts of 200 or less? That would be helpful.
Yeah, so the comparison is actually, and I can list all the towns out, but it's comparing us to towns that are near us, so like Hebron and Marlborough, as well as towns that are similar to us, like Salem. And in terms of comparison, it's not based on the number of students that the superintendent is overseeing, it's based on how many hours they work, so are they at 0.2, a 0.4, or 0.6. So you're taking the salary amount and equilibrating to like, how much would that salary earn if it was a 0.2?
Right, but it doesn't include, that doesn't
If you want to speak, you need to come up and you need to say your name and address.
Thank you.
You're gonna have to hold the rules.
Yes.
And then,
Sorry, I intended to, my name is Kathleen Barrett and I live at 44 Lakeside Drive. And I intended to speak, but really just wanted to ask the question so that I was confident that we were comparing apples to apples as we were looking at and evaluating the superintendent's salary. And I guess I would also ask the question, was there a raise of 11% this year in the budget for the superintendent's salary, or am I mistaken by that? If that is correct, I would ask us all to consider, is it an 11% raise? If it is, then I would ask us all to ask the question, when was the last time we had an 11% raise in our salary? And stop my clock so that I don't lose you in 3 minutes.
So yes, it is an 11% raise for the superintendent. I hope that we don't spend the whole meeting on this. Do you know that the town treasurer also got a 33% raise in the upcoming budget? So she is not the only employee to get a large raise, and I will tell you, it doesn't have to do with Valerie directly, right? She's phenomenal, she's a great superintendent, but it's also about our town being competitive when and if we have to go hire another superintendent so that we can actually hire one.
Thank you. I could start replying here. Thank you. I come to this as a mother who loves children. I come to this as a citizen who loves my community, and I hope that we will be able to find a way to negotiate and talk together and work through perhaps new solutions than the solutions we've found so far. When I looked at the size of the Andover budget for the elementary school, I did some research and I looked and I asked a question. Oh, I forgot to say, I'm also a former elementary school counselor, and I was a school counseling professor for just shy of 20 years. And so I would ask, as we ask ourselves the question, what shall we do to deal with this problem that many small communities like ours face, that's the shrinking enrollment, which is happening all over the state and all over the country, really. The decisions that we make now are decisions that are going to come back to us several years from now. But I hear a lot of talk about class sizes and what the ceiling should be. And is a class size of 10 to 12 something that's really good for our children? And I would say to you to do a little research and look, and perhaps you'll find that a class size of 10 to 12 for students in early elementary school grades, kindergarten through 3, is wonderful. It's great if a town is wealthy enough to be able to offer that. But for children in grades 4, 5, and 6, I do not believe in my heart that small size classroom is a benefit. I think it's a disadvantage disguised as a benefit, because kids in the middle childhood period, they're developing socially, they're developing academically, and they need to learn things from a bigger classroom environment than one that includes 10 to 12 children. And so I could say more, but I'm sure my 3 minutes is 42 seconds about it. I love our community, I love our kids, I think we need to be reasonable. And with my remaining seconds, I want to say, I hate the division that this has created in our town. I hate the attitude that all of us who are elders who might voice opposition to what you in the schools would present are enemies, or are people that should be spurned or should be looked at as not caring about children. We care about children a lot. I just see my community as inclusive of a wonderful school, but greater than that wonderful school.
Jeff said. This
Who are you?
far apartness is not great. With
Who are you?
Ron Lane, I'm sorry, Ron Lane. So, I think the Board of Education, I think what people are having trouble with is struggling with stuff that they don't understand. We're hearing things like, Valerie, your contract was due to expire July this year, but it's already been renewed before the budget. And I think that's what people have concerns with. When you care about the kids, when you care about the community, it's working together. Like, let's wait until after the C and then go from there. If you need a psychologist, hey, Board of Selectmen, we're looking to get a psychologist. Let's work together and see if we can do that in the next couple of years. And I think that's where it all comes apart. So we're just asking, clarity of why did it get signed before, okay? And, some people are saying you're getting full-time benefits. Is that true? If you are, and you are part-time, how come? This is what we just want to have. So I think if we get clarity on everything, and it's transparent, we're not going to have this disconnect. This town has always worked with the school. There's kids that have graduated from these schools that have got great jobs and that have done well, and they'll continue to do so. And the town wants to continue to work with the school, but they don't want to feel like they're held hostage over the school every year. So that's, I think, what everybody is looking to hear is just clarity.
You have a question? No, I can answer that. Absolutely welcome to ask it.
Yes.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay, so a few of these things have been explained before, so I know not everybody was here at the last meeting, so I'll be happy to explain them again. With a contract, when you have a 3-year contract that's set to expire, you can't wait till the last day of expiration, because what happens if, in fact, it's not going to be renewed, or somebody's not going to stay? So there's at least a 3-month span, because let's pretend I was going to retire. They would need time to find someone new, and they would need time to go through the hiring process and fill that position. We did see what happened. Unfortunately, we had a couple of open positions on the town side where we were without somebody. You never want that to happen. So you make sure that that position is going to be filled. The other thing is, the superintendent puts the budget together before they give it to the Board of Ed, and then the Board of Ed adopts the budget, and then it goes to the town. I'm not the one that decides my contract, the Board of Ed is. So I can't put a dollar figure in my proposed budget until I know what that number is. So it is always done that you would do a contract months before it's set to expire. So if the last day of this contract was June 30th, which it was, it would happen in October, that they would decide what that new contract would look like. So that if we were parting ways, there would be time to fill that position before June 30th. So that's very common. There was nothing non-transparent about that. That's actually the way it gets done, is that you do it a few months ahead of time. Ron, the other question was related to benefits. Yes, a contract does include benefits, just like on the town side where they actually have part-time people that get stipends for not taking benefits. It is a part of a contract. So yes, when I was hired originally, I was hired to fulfill a position that a retired person had been in. I'm not retired. So I took a salary cut to have benefits. They said this was what the amount was. That was the whole package for the superintendent. And I said, I need benefits for myself. So I took a cut in salary so that I could have the benefits included in that package. I didn't get anything more. And there was a third one, Ron?
Yes, about the age of the psychiatrist.
Oh, yes. We said this before, thank you. We have to have a service provider. Some schools have a social worker, a guidance counselor, and a school psychologist. We don't. We have one person. So I feel like sometimes if it was called a guidance counselor or a social worker, people would think that it was more appropriate. We just happen to have, of those 3 possibilities, we have a school psychologist who does the testing for students. It's mandatory that we have a support position. In our case, it's just the school psychologist, and she wasn't always here. We had a fair amount of her salary covered with a grant though for 3 years, and that grant is expiring. And for class sizes 4 through 6, they are all 23 and above. There aren't small classes in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade until this year we added the 4th and the 5th.
Valerie, we have to have somebody available. It doesn't mean we have to have a full-time psychologist.
Are you kidding me?
Hold on, wait.
That's not true, Ron. I wish it was, but it's not.
Yeah.
And if we contracted a psychologist just to come in and do the testing, the cost, as in for a contractor, would be 3 times the cost. It's about $150 per hour for them to come in. So we do have to have this position, Ron. I wish we didn't. That would be a place we could cut. We cannot. That is a required position. But thanks.
And I just want to clarify, Don mentioned it briefly, but one of the reasons, frankly, I should redo the slide. The $90,000 figure is not really the full cost. And heretofore, for 2 or 3 years running, we had $45,000 coming in grant money, that went away. So the net change to the town is the 45. So apologies if I confused anyone with my slide. That's me.
Anything else?
My name is Michelle Lorenz. I'm from 149 Lake Road. I've been here for 33 years. A lot of you know me. All right. So, just so everyone is aware, because we can make comments this time, thank God. All right. Special education is not a joke. A school psychologist is not there to give therapy to children outside of school. A medical diagnosis is different than an educational classification. If your child has dyslexia, if they suffer from ADHD, autism, or any other mental health diagnosis, and they need help in school to survive, they need a psychologist to give an educational classification. Without that, they don't get services. Okay? Now, the institutions have been closed for 20 years. We no longer institutionalize these children. Does everyone understand so far? They now are in the schools. It is inclusive education. Okay, so you cannot deny them their right. As a special education teacher, okay, as a parent with 2 children that receive services, and they have since they were 3 years old, both speech and psychology services, okay, you are denying not only the children in this town, you are denying my children the right to an equal and equitable education. And that's not fair. So you say your taxes are getting higher. Yeah, gas is $5 a gallon. Okay? But here's the thing. When you don't look at the budgets equally, the town budget and the school budget, really, are you looking at the budget at all? So my question is, I understand that we run on volunteers in this town. Okay? I get that. But my question to you is, are we really taking into consideration why people are voting no? And are you voting no just to vote no because you don't want your money to go somewhere else? All right? Is it really that your taxes can't get higher and you can't afford it anymore? If it is, you should be relying on your social services that your tax money pays for. Okay? There's services in towns, there's services in the state. But with that, the other thing is, when we were at the Board of Finance meeting, there were positions that were being budgeted for that haven't been filled in 3 years.
I only heard 2 people speak up about it. So, what are we doing about these proposed things, these proposed positions?
Can I just ask one quick clarification? So we did make some adjustments to a couple of the salary line items, and at least one of them was for a position I don't think we've filled exactly. We've been using, so the assistant line, for instance, for the town administrator, we have been utilizing somebody in that role and been paying money, but we hadn't hired, I think, an extra person. We looked at that line and we cut it. So can you just, can you remind me the other bits that you were curious about, that why we didn't, that we may not have cut? I just want to make sure I'm addressing your question properly. Right. Right.
The full-time salary, kind of think about the figures, see on here, but I know we need one income.
So the admin assistant line we cut a little bit. The project manager, we're using that money, that's different. Yep. Mm-hmm.
There was a whole lot of project building for 3 years.
I'm trying to remember which one that was now. I apologize, but is the town position?
Oh, yeah, I think you were the one that said, we could cut it a little bit, but there was no reason to cut it fully, because we might actually get someone who would left.
Are you talking about the property manager?
No, after property manager.
Was it the community center assistant?
Center assistant.
Okay.
It had to be someone that wasn't able to be hired in 3 years. I can't remember what it was, but it was in the video, and I was kind of shocked at that. I can go back in the video and look.
Okay, I apologize, but I'm struggling. We'll see. Yes. Because I would like to just specifically, if I could, genuinely though, I don't recall, other than that assistant to the town admin line that we talked about. So.
Phil, did you have a question?
Yeah.
Come up, but you know.
Louise Goodwin, 91 Lakeside Drive. I just want to let everyone know that the special ed monies are mandated. We do not reduce any of that special ed money, and we never will.
So a psychologist
It has never changed. My daughter is in that field as well, and special ed is very important and has never been reduced. They do require the social workers to do the testing, and there has been social workers already doing that testing. So we are not reducing the APS at all in that manner. I just wanted to clarify that.
Just really quick, the Board of Finance doesn't have line item control on the board of budget. When we cut $50,000 from them, they're gonna have to go back and figure that out. Where they take it from, that's not up to us. So I don't know what impact specifically that $50,000 cut will have. So if it were to test, that's gonna be their problem, and they haven't gotten to it yet. So I don't know where it would go. I don't think it would be cut from the school psychologist, but just FYI, we don't know. All we can do is look at the bottom line and say, is that number good or not?
Hi, my name is Phil Hovey. I live at 218 Heber Road. I don't have a question, I have a plea. I rely on seeing your mouths move so I can understand what you're saying. So please, no cross conversations without coming up here so I can actually see you speaking as well as hearing. The mics attenuate the sound. The reverberation also affects the sound. So please, if you're having a cross conversation, do it over the mic and let me see your mouths moving. That's all. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, Georgia Conrad, 117 Lakeside Drive. I've been in town 57 years. And when I came to town, I volunteered everywhere and I eventually got on boards and things like that. I was on the board of finance for a number of years. We have never had special needs children institutionalized. And so I just wanted to clear that up. Because when I was on the Board of Finance and I was chairman, and this is like 20, 25 years ago, they were not institutionalized, they were educated in the Andover school. And if we had to bus them out to a place where they could be educated because we didn't have the facilities, we paid for them. So let's clear that up. I'm sorry, but that's the facts.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you were here. You married as board of finance. Let's go. All right.
Hi, Linda Fish, 111 Townsend Road. I just have a quick question. I understand getting salaries up to par. It is a small town, and I know other towns, other instances, when you're trying to get somebody up to par, you do it over 2 or 3 years and not in one fell swoop. It make it easier on the budget and for people to understand. So I'm just curious why all at one time and not gradually.
So it's not actually all at one time, it is gradually. We needed to make that much of an addition in order to get her closer to the bottom of the pack of where everything is. She's still at the bottom, and I can definitely email that out to you guys if you'd like a bit more information. I guess my comment back is, why are we spending this entire meeting talking about the superintendent's raise, which is equal to about $10,000? Is $10,000 a large percentage of your taxes? Is it a large percentage of what your tax increase is going to be? Are there other more gianter ways that we could take money away from things that is not the superintendent?
11% is just an awful lot, and people don't understand that. I've had the same salary for over 15 years, and I still work. So it just seems like a big jump to me.
Well, that's a different. So Robert was asking, she had a $5,000 increase last year. That is correct. That was part of a previous contract. So if you guys want to look at the actual contract, you're more than welcome to do so. They are posted on the school website.
Hi, I'm Ashley Johnson. Recently moved here from Texas. Howdy, y'all. Yes, my address is 191 Lake Road. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so first I just have a question for everybody. Who believes that education is important? Please. All right. Everybody in this room saw all the hands go up? All right, cool. Who likes Andover? All right. So, can we all just admit that we all love this place and that we're all trying to do what we believe is best for our town and our community? 11% is a bit of an increase, especially net, bogus, especially for people on a fixed income. So I can understand why anyone would balk at that. Yes, there are social services for people. Yes, there are things that we can do. But anytime that you're going to ask more money from people, we're all going to have questions. We're all going to want to know where exactly it's going. It's not that we want to say no. I certainly don't. Shoot, my kid goes here and I love this school. Just remember that we're all on the same side and we're all just trying to figure this out together, and to maybe give everyone the benefit of the doubt and not throw little snide jabs here and there, because I can guarantee you that ain't gonna help anybody. Thank you.
Hi, Stacy Kaufman, 164 Lake Road. What's sticking out to me about this budget is that the Andover elementary school budget failed, but the RAM budget passed in this town. I know it didn't pass in Hebron and Marlboro. And that is shocking to me because that per pupil expenditure is $32,000 per student from the document they shared. And I don't know if that's the norm for regional school districts. I'm not overly familiar with regional school districts, but that seemed extremely high to me when most towns are maybe between 19 and 26,000 per pupil. So the fact that that one passed in this town and the elementary school budget didn't pass, I felt like nobody was paying attention to that one. And we care about our kids, obviously, at all grade levels, but the things they've presented here are things that it appears they need. They're not trying to pull one over on anyone. They need all of these things. And yes, preschool is legally mandated, and we would have to have it regardless. So that was my takeaway, and I just maybe think you should look at the RAM budget also in order to push our costs down.
I'm going to take off my badge and say something as Linda. Symbolically, let's go ahead. Maybe, Caitlin, to respond to your thought, maybe we haven't mentioned tonight, it's not all about Valerie's salary. It's also about a huge increase in the AES budget overall. And when I look at budget, and I am not on the finance committee, thank God, but when I look at the whole town, we do love our whole town. If it's 100% of a budget, right now, don't we have 79% going to education and 21% going to the rest of the town? To me, okay, a little, it might shift a little, but it's a very small amount for the town to do everything else besides the school, to me. So I don't think we're just harping on your side. It is a question, but I think we should also, and we did the referendum, say nope, it's too high. And we're probably going to say it again next week.
That's what we just say.
I'm done.
The one thing I would just add regarding our educational expenses is, this is part of how it's presented in our budgets and has been for years. But, we receive that $2 million from the state every year, the ECS fund, the Educational Cost Share Grant, right? And that's what in my mind, that's what they're tacking that $80,000 additional aid onto. When we display the budget, it's not lost on me that what we do not do is show that coming off the ed budgets, right? It comes off the whole town budget, which is fine. But the only reason I bring it up is if we're going to discuss kind of the pie chart of where our money goes. The whole idea, we're spending 70% of our budget on education usually in any given year. True, that's where our expenditures go. But we also receive the state aid. I have issues with, frankly, how we displayed aid money, grant money in general, and I'm going to continue to address those as my time on this board continues. But I just want to point that out, that if you're looking at it from the standpoint of what we are paying for, there's expenditures, right? And then there's expenditures less funding, right? So that's the one thing that could skew those numbers. I think you could get two different numbers and they would both be valid. Just pointing that out.
Oh, wait. Oh. Actually, you're next. Thank you.
Marcy Miner, 80 West Street. I just wanted to address the Board of Finance because I've sent a letter and I requested that we when we look past this budget and we look at this budget, pass or fail, whatever, that we do not include the money that's coming back from the state and from RAM. Because what I understand is, especially the money from RAM, is a one-time refund. So I do not think that we should be looking at that when it comes to this budget. Any increases that we receive now are permanent. Budgets don't go down. So I don't think we should be looking at that at this budget, because even if budgets are flat, it's going to be increased next year, because this money is a one-time thing.
So I would just say that on the expenditures, it's not like we pulled them off the expenditures. You're correct that there are one-time chunks of money coming in. The 258 from RAM and the additional state aid, I presume, is a one-shot deal unless they up and do it again next year. We wouldn't count on that. That's accurate. That's true. Same with use of fund balance. We've done it in the past a couple times. It's not new that we're doing it, but again, that's a one-shot from our reserves, not recurring revenue. So that's true. Our expenditures are trued up in here. I hope you don't think I've misrepresented what we're actually spending. And I came up with a couple of different ways to address the RAM, the 258K that they're giving us back for the money that kept too long. If you take, and I had a conversation just by the way, with the RAM superintendent about how it would be presented in that referendum, I wanted to make sure that it's the true number. When you saw that on my slide yesterday, I think 4.25 million for RAM, that's our levy without the offset, because it's misleading. To Marcy's point, if I were to pull that number off, it looks like RAM's giving us this big cut, which isn't really true, okay? So it's always a question of how to present the information to show you, okay, we're doing this to reduce taxation this year. But yes, you should all be aware that all things being equal, no other changes, that 350,000, which the 258 from RAM and 98 from the state, goes away next year. Yes, correct.
The point is that it wasn't deducted from the line. The line item is the actual budget line item. We didn't deduct it, and we're not hiding from the fact that that money's there. That's taken out somewhere else. Line items are what they are. We didn't deduct those amounts from those line items. You're seeing the actual budgets, whether we get that money or not.
Right. It's only when we calculated the taxes that, you pull that money out.
So basically, we overpaid for a number of years. And if I were to have my way, I'd say, give me the refund. Because I had a property that I paid taxes for a whole year, and I overpaid on my taxes that year. Now, I'm not going to ask the town to do that, because I know that would be arduous, all right? But that's what I'm just saying. Don't use it to tell me that we're saving money this year. Use it, later. I mean, as it's a one-time refund.
So one thing I want to remind, and we kind of have this conversation every year, our budget always says AES school budget, and the assumption is that $4 million is simply for what goes on in the classrooms. And the thing is it is 35 school roads budget. This gym right now, when it gets heated on our budget. That's $10,000 a year in oil to heat this gym. And we use the gym half the time. In basketball and pickleball and town meetings, use it the other half of the time. We're only in school 180 of 365 days in a school year. So all of those expenses are our expenses to pay out of our school budget for the largest piece of town property. Everything about this building is in our budget. We also do not have a capital budget. Almost every school in the state of Connecticut has a capital and an operational. So when you're looking at our budget, it is our operational capital budget up until now, all rolled in one. We talk about RAM. We look at RAM just because it's our neighbor, or Hebron, or Marlboro. Those schools have an operational and a capital budget. I do not. So everything that needs to be fixed in this building up to this date has come out of our operational budget. All the oil, the heat, the hot water, everything comes out of that budget. It is not just what goes on in the classrooms. The cutting the grass, everything is on our budget.
Jeff McGuire, 422 Lake Road. I kind of have a problem with that logic because we're one town. We all have to pay for everything. And there are things on the town budget, let's say like plowing the parking lot for the school, that are not paid for by the school, paid for by the town. So that whole logic drives me insane. Just to let everybody here understand that. Now, thank God we don't allow the school to operate a capital budget because the town would have been out $180,000 on the bathroom budget. So thank God we don't allow the school to handle the capital project. And thank the superintendent for acknowledging that this is a town building. Everybody heard it, right? It's a town building. It's our biggest asset. It's what we need to take care of the most. And I really have a problem with the focus from the Board of Finance on how we're paying for what we need to pay for. Because you have to focus on expenses. I know I don't have a lot of qualifications, that was made painfully clear, but I am a CPA and I own multiple businesses and I deal with budgets all the time. I have never had anyone come to me and give me a budget that I just passed through, right? And since I am the Board of Finance for my companies, I have never let anyone come to me and sit there and say, I need this increase because I need it, I want it. And I have never sat there and just let anyone push it right past me without any changes. That's happened for 2 years. The Board of Finance has sat there and taken what the school has asked for and sat there and passed it right through, right? And I'm not sitting there saying to cut crazy. I'm sitting there saying to listen and to collaborate. Because I'll ask the Board of Finance my question. Here's my question. Did everyone on the Board of Finance get all of the information from the town that it needed to make its decisions and from the Board of Education? All of your questions answered?
No.
No. Town? Did the town screw with you? Yeah. No. I'm asking, if you didn't get information from the town, did you not get all of the information from the town?
I would say, actually, to my satisfaction personally as the Lisa's board chair, not really, because we had massive turnover at the town hall. It's nobody's particular fault. I'm not casting blame. I hate to do that. What I am saying is, I had some questions about what the balances are of various capital funds. I do not feel we have 100% clarity on that. We have the almost finished audit. But I wanted a new treasurer to true up those numbers and reconcile them. She has not been able to do that yet for all of the funds. This is not some great travesty. She's working hard. I understand. But if you ask me that question flat out like that, yeah, the answer is not quite. It doesn't mean I don't think the town budget's good.
From the Board of Education as well, you got all your information? It says all of them.
You know perfectly well that there have been requests made by members of my board that they don't feel have been appropriately answered. Yes.
Answer a question you have?
No. So those are problems I have with how we conduct business within the town, because we are not collaborative to the point we need to be. And if we were collaborative, this would be a lot easier process, a lot. And so the other thing that I have, because I always ask it, and I'm going to ask the Board of Education members that are here, I won't ask you the normal question I ask is if the pre-K is costing the taxpayers money. I'm going to ask you a question because it really goes to everything. Have you considered raising tuition on the pre-K program?
So this has been discussed multiple times. As everyone is aware, if you've been to any Board of Education or town meeting, starting next year, so not this coming school year, but the school year after, pre-K is mandated for our entire state, starting in 2027. It's not an option, it's not only for kids that are special ed, it is mandated by the state. We are waiting to change what we do with the pre-K program until we get direction from the state on what that entails exactly, because there are different amounts of money that are given for different children in different income brackets, and they, to be honest, quite frankly, haven't sorted it all out yet. Look at how short-sighted our state is in terms of giving additional funding to our towns at this time. So we're not going to make changes to that, but yes, it's a great point, because next year, the education budget will include all of preschool. When you guys look at it, it's going to look really different, because it's going to have positives and negatives. It's going to have tuition in, it's going to have grants in, and it's going to have money out. And to be clear, special education is mandated currently for kids between age 3 and 5. So after they age out of birth to 3 until they start kindergarten. If we had those costs in our budget for all the kids that need those services, the Board of Education budget would likely be close to $200,000 more than what it currently is. We are able to take advantage of some of those services being grant funded, because the teachers are grant funded because they are part of the preschool program. Okay? I also have a question. I have 40 seconds? Okay, take your time.
Okay, so my question related to that, I'll ask the other question. Are all the grant dollars that the Board of Education receives included in this budget that we see, or are there grant dollars that are received and extra costs that are spent by the Board of Education? Everybody needs to know.
So the difference between what you're asking is if something is supplemental or if it's supplanted, is that correct?
Grants included in our expenses that we see on.
So any grant that could be subtracted from a line item in the budget, it is subtracted, so that line item looks lower than what it would look like. But the grants are not in the budget. You're not seeing those in the budget. You're just seeing the end lesser total. And there are many grants that the school gets that are they are in addition to or for specific things. They're not to take money away from something. So for example, like the after school program grant, that grant is not something that could have replaced something in the budget. It's to provide additional services.
So you and I could have worked together to really get all of the information out and done a really good job and made everybody here comfortable with how all of the spending was done if we would work together. I'm just saying, that's me, right? So I'm done.
Bill DeRochers, 232 Bearsville Road, and Board of Finance member, and I take exception, Jeff, with what you just said. This board spends hours, week on week, for 3 months, going through the budget. We don't pass anything through. We ask Rand to come talk to us. We have Valerie to explain line by line everything that's in that budget. We ask as many questions as we can to try and understand every line item, every budget, every salary. We never take anything and pass it through. And I dare anybody here to say that. Do we just pass it through? We labor for hours trying to make sure we understand every single thing in that budget. We never pass anything through.
Yeah, we don't have the access. We don't have access to the line level detail of AES.
Well, I disagree with that. We see her full budget, and we see 21% increase in insurance costs, $45,000 increase for the psychiatrist, which is mandated by law. We lost the grant. I can go on and on and on. It's not a frosting on the cake here. It's real expenses to run the school. It's not just, oh, let's do this, that, and the other thing. It's all real stuff. We don't pass anything through without going through. Sorry, that's just a bad accident.
Was it 3 minutes?
Hey again. So, again, 191 Lake Road. So, Ashley Johnson, we're allowed to comment, right, on what other people have said? 3 minutes starts now? Okay. I'm so sorry, sir. I forgot your name.
Jeff McGuire.
Jeff McGuire. Okay. So, maybe I'm going to say this and not trying to be mean. Again, I'm Texan, I'm Southern. So, if you want to work with people, you have to meet them where they're at. That goes for everybody on this board, and I know everybody knows that. We're in a school, we all learn this in pre-K and kindergarten, right? I'm going to be nice.
No, you need to.
Oh, sweetie, don't make me mean. Oh, honey, bless your heart. So, you say that you and this young lady could have met together and worked together. I will say that sometimes your tone does make it a little bit hard for people to address you. Just as sometimes her tone can be a little bit hard because we're passionate. You're both passionate people about this, and maybe, okay, so I see whenever you go ahead and you send out a newsletter to everybody in the community on your own dime, paper, by the way, like that's some good quality paper. So you're sending this out on your own dime. I see someone who cares. But I also see somebody who it could maybe be taken as kind of undermining the school budget, and that is not a way to work with people. So if when you're saying that you want to work with someone, we give everybody respect. Thank you for the information that you give out. However, you do need to show respect to these people and to these young ladies, and then we don't have to drag our butts out here at 7 o'clock at night when I could be at home in my comfy PJs and I'm wearing a bra, for God's sake. And we're here. So, I would just suggest that maybe y'all show some respect to each other and bring food. It always helps.
So, anybody who has not spoken yet, Joanne.
Joanne Hebert, 134 Bear Swamp Road. I just have logistics questions, really. I know I usually have a lot of comments, suggestions, all those kind of things. Can we please get posted on the website the mill rate page, or, that really gives us all a lot of information. It'll give us the total tax dollars, the cuts, glad to see that we can put fund balance against it, but I kind of want to see the total projected expenses, things of that nature. It's hard to really, all of us, to make good decisions about our voting when we can't see that end game. I know what the cuts are. The other thing I did want to ask is, it was brought up that the health employee benefits are a big cost and a big driver, salaries, of course, things that can't be changed. We all get that. Val, I just wanted to ask real quick, in the Board of Ed publication, do we have the health benefit line on here that I could?
There is a monthly line in the budget, yes.
Okay, because I know where the benefits are. Just trying to get a dollar amount. I mean, it's very expensive what the town does pay on health benefits. We all know they're skyrocketing. I also want to personally point out, I'm very much in favor, where I'm going with this, that I think all of our employees need to get the best of benefits. I'm happy, that we're able to provide that, and we want to keep that going if they're qualified. So I was looking for the dollar amount so that I could have forecast I know what the town, I think, is going to be paying $254,798. I just couldn't come up with the Board of Ed number. So my only thought to maybe the Board of Selectmen, it's been brought up quite a bit of times that we do have this healthcare stipend that's in the budget, under healthcare benefits. Again, I want anybody that needs insurance to get insurance, please take it, family, single, 2 people, whatever that is. But this stipend has gotten to a really high rate since healthcare has skyrocketed. So now I think we're paying some of the employees maybe $7,500 not to take insurance, which equates to maybe $145 a week, $600 a month, and a big draw on our budget. So it's been talked about for years, dropping that to a level that other towns do. So I'm hoping that the Board of Selectmen is considering that. Even 2,400 would be 200 a month, which is a nice token. If this was a good idea, you know, every other town would be doing it. There's no other town that I can find. They have stipends, but they're like 2,000, 2,400, things of that nature. So I'm personally hoping that we can drop that this year. We can work on that in the budget to a more livable expense.
So, as we start to kind of wrap this up, right, not much more discussion, but just a couple of more questions. Yes, I can hear you. Just a second. I guess so.
Yeah, as Joanne was asking about, well, I just wanted to make sure she understood, because I think there was a question in the beginning there about, you know, what we looked at. One of the things about the payment in lieu of the healthcare thing for some of the town employees, as I understand it, and I can be corrected if I'm wrong about this from Board of Selectmen, that's tied to 50% of the individual plan, what it would cost. Now, I think it would be up to them to alter it if they chose to do so, but the flip side to that, obviously the risk, is that then people say, well, all right, then I'll take the insurance, which would be probably dramatically more expensive. So that's why, for my money, I think we're doing an okay job there. That would be my take on that. Okay. And then I'll just really quickly, I just want to mention one other thing about grant funding and what's in the budget and what's not in the budget. This is something that's irked me now for a little while, and I intend to continue to work on it as Board of Finance Chair with our new town administrator, with our new treasurer. There's not everything on the town side is displayed. We get it should be, but it's not, and it never has been, as far as I've been on this board, and probably since I've been in town, since '07. We don't show you the town aid road grant, and then the total amount we spent on roads. We show you what we're loading into the town road fund. That's not the same thing. So I am all for, I really want to get as much information out there and accurate as possible going forward. But if we're going to talk about what's not in there and not in there, this is a both sides of the house issue, just to be clear.
She's gonna talk for me. She doesn't have to say. Oh, go ahead. She's talking for me, Linda. Okay, here, leave the microphone.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have other people who have not talked. Joe, if you wanna come up, you wanna talk, come up. But Michelle has spoken.
All right.
Can't say it. Yeah, once together. That's very
Joe King, 86 School Road, Andover. Okay. I want to know why you aren't soliciting from the town voters exactly why they voted up or down on the budget. Are you guessing when they changed? What they want changed? And without that information, you can't do your job properly. And what are you going to publicly do about it if you want it? I want you to address the peer teacher in person and Zoom meetings as well. She had that. Okay. So you understand what I'm talking about? I got it. All right. You have any rebuttal at all?
I'm not trying to rebut anything, first of all. We didn't, well, do you need me to, I just want to, so I want to make sure you see, we just, okay, sorry.
Okay.
We discussed this before the meeting. I don't feel like we see exactly eye to eye on it. However, my take is We see the vote totals. We see the advisory questions. We get public feedback, either in the form of emails from residents or comments at our meetings. There is no perfect information, but I also don't really understand the mechanism by which we would canvass the whole town for or at least the people who participated in the referendum, more than we do. That would work. I don't have a problem with more information. More information is great, but I don't know how we would go about doing that functionally. That would work. It would be a workable process. And as you point out, and when we discussed this before the meeting, there's issues with what's representative, who shows up at this meeting, who comes to a Board of Finance meeting, who answers our queries. All of those would be subsets of the people who voted in the referendum. So I'm open to ideas, yes, but I don't quite follow how we would go about getting more information about the precise changes that town residents want to a given portion of the budget than we already do. That's my take.
So you can get public feedback? Who? Or not at the public speaking meetings?
Well, there are multiple avenues of this, as I said. So there are the referendum results, the advisory questions at the referendum, comments at our board meetings, comments at these town meetings, letters or emails sent to members of the boards, personal conversations as well, of course, they're always an option if you know some of us. And, for those that monitor social media, I personally don't, I admit, there's plenty of chatter there as well. All of those things represent subsets of people who would vote in a referendum. So which slice is the accurate slice? We do our best. That's my response.
Okay.
Next.
Hi, I'm Bob Hamburger, 101 Shotty Mill Road. I've only lived in town 38 years, not like some of you long-timers. I want to talk about something that is really just a very small subset of what's been discussed here, something that I feel, though, would be operational and could reduce some of the contention and some of the friction that we're seeing here. And this idea that I'm going to talk about is actually something that is done to some extent, but not rigorously by the various boards and commissions. And that's the level of documentation that we have to back up our ideas. Now, I come to this as a lifelong electrical engineer. I've worked in industry, I've worked in university research settings, and when I come up with an idea, I have to make sure that it is bulletproof, it is defensible, it is justifiable. And to do that, I have to establish a rigorous chain of documentation for the ideas that I have that lead to the conclusions that I draw. Now, some of this was alluded to very early in the meeting. Caitlin, you responded to someone on this side saying it would be egregious to have to email them the 20 or so contracts that were used to justify Val's compensation. And Val, I don't mean to pick on you, but it's a good example of what I'm talking about. So I think it behooves everyone here on every commission, every board, when you're doing research, if you're doing something online, you find a piece of information, you find a document that you are going to be using to justify a position, you take note of that. You copy and paste that into a spreadsheet or a Word document or something like that, so that you have an irrefutable documentary chain of where these ideas originate and how they relate to the conclusions that you're drawing. This is the kind of thing that's always done in academia. Val, I'm sure you did it when you put your thesis together. I'm sure you had pages and pages of references. A document like this, where the curious reader, as they say in academia, can go back to the original sources, can be made available electronically, we can post it on our website, and I think it would cut down tremendously on the amount of friction that we see back and forth. Because somebody who challenged something, you can say, no, here it is, this is what I'm basing it on, there's no question about it. That's my idea.
So, as we, I know. I'm just throwing out a moment of breath and check in, because it's pretty soon we're gonna wrap up. You know, good discussion, good questions, but we'll start to move towards that if someone at some point in the near future tonight has a motion to adjourn. So. Yes.
This is super quick, guys, over 30 seconds. Joanne, you had asked something that I totally meant to answer, it flew it out of my mind. Yes, I will try to get the new presentation with the mill rate calculations posted to the website. I'll get it to Kate and I'll ask her to put it up there, right? And I want to ask her to leave up the old one so people can toggle between and say, okay, this is the change. All right, I'll try and get that done shortly.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jerry Cremay. I live at 8 Woodford Way in Andover. I've lived there since 2005. I'd like to thank the people who volunteer their time. The Board of Finance. I've always wanted to volunteer. I never wanted to be just on a log when I retired. So the first thing I did is I read the reading of River East. River East had an ad in there, so they wanted somebody for the Board of Education. Write your letter of intent, why you want to be on the Board of Education. I applied. I was the only one. There was nobody else. And I thank the people who are here this evening. I know that you care. I care also. I care from a couple of different directions. I am a senior citizen. I've had lunch with our seniors. I've enjoyed senior citizen activities. I am a senior citizen on a fixed income. It's been that way for over 10 years. But that's okay. Every time we have one of these budget meetings, every year after year, I hear the same things. Now, keep in mind, correct me if I'm wrong, Jack, you take care of hiring the people for the town, correct? You take care of it. Good boy. And you said our board was responsible for hiring the superintendent. So I take responsibility for that, hiring the superintendent. She was the best decision I think I've made in my 71 years of living. She's done an outstanding job. And she's been the school and the town shine like the top of the Chrysler Building. And she's applied for grants. I think she's done a super job. I think the people you hire, if you want good people, you need to hire them carefully and be willing to pay them. I know it's hard on a fixed income and a senior citizen. I also come to you as a former elementary school teacher. I taught at South Windsor, Pleasant Valley Elementary School for 17 years. Prior to that, I taught at Buckney Elementary School in West Hartford with special ed. And that's where I found that I really belong. It's not about me, it's not about me, it's about people. It's about kindness, it's about love, it's about care. Caring for your family. Being kind to the people in your family. I want to thank you for coming out this evening and for being here. Please appreciate the people who are living in this town, or your neighbors and fellow residents. And keep in mind, we don't get paid. And we work hard, but that's okay. We signed up for that, Rob. And I hope you out here have a much warmer heart for your people who take care of the town. They do a super job.
Andrea Gaines, 115 Lakeside Drive. I'd just like to move to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second
Second class.
All those in favor, stand up.
Oh, yeah.
I think we're good to go. Thank you all. Good work. Have a good evening.